What up, everybody? We're live for this episode 113 of the Beefy Breakdown. Going over 282. Alkalaya versus, I almost said Prohaska, versus Blahovic for the light heavyweight title. We got Patty on the co-main. But first, as we always do on this show, we're going to hit the early prelims and the prelims. We do not miss a single breakdown here on the Beefy Boys Breakdown.
Honestly, great early prelims and prelims as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, seriously, we got some stud, prospects making their debut, jerking the curtain. TJ Brown, Eric Silva, and then Billy Q. I like Billy Q, man. Like, to get him on.
Love Billy Q. Personality-wise, just like tough, hard-nosed, like kind of just represents the guy I would like to hang out with and like kick it with.
Yeah. I mean, dope fight style too. Fucking dog. That fight was a banger. But yeah, we'll fucking jerk the curtains with Cameron Simon, I believe is his name. 6-0 prospect making his debut as a -315 favorite. Fighting Stephen Koslow, also making his debut, +260 dog, also 6-0. Simon, he's I think I remember him on the Contender Series. He's only 21 years old, young guy.
Second youngest male fighter on the roster.
And the only guy younger is also on this card too, coming up here in a second.
Raul Rosas.
Yeah, man. So, a lot of young prospects on this card, and it's always exciting. It's exciting, but it also creates, I don't want to say problems, but how slow or fast you build these young guys. It's not boxing. You can't really pad their record. It's just too soon. We'll get to all that. But yes, this first fight, Simon versus Koslow. Dude, the grappling scrambles in round one of this, that's what makes me think that, both of these guys are honestly ready. That was some high-level shit, man. I mean...
Well, Koslow, what made me like Simon so much was that I know Koslow is a great grappler. That's what he's been billed as. For Simon to be able to grapple with him as effectively as he was, I thought Simon mostly controlled the feet for those exchanges of the fight. So for me, it was almost like, I like both these guys in the UFC in their future, but for Simon to be 21 and be that well-rounded already, really like that.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And I gave round one to Koslow. I admit it was close. Could have pretty much, the whole round was pretty much a scramble. So in those rounds, I don't pretty much, care who wins. I just had to pick somebody. I thought Koslow, he pretty much started the scramble with his takedown, and then he reversed, and I believe he got on Simon's back for a little bit. And, I like his work. You can make the argument Simon probably got more ground and pound damage off. So if you like that, I'm not mad at it at all. I just thought that Simon was maybe forced to be a little more reactive, and Koslow was kind of, getting them to those positions.
I thought Koslow had a great first round, to be quite honest. His little ground and pound flurry at the end was probably the most impactful damage of the round.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then round two, we got a real weird little Peter Yan situation. Got a knee to the grounded opponent. Koslow had one knee clearly down. Of the round, I thought, and he also had a reversal of his own in that round as well. I don't know, how do you see round two?
So round two, I pretty much saw it the same way, except for the point deduction there. That clear knee was, that was a horrible foul, man. That was clearly on the face, both knees on the ground, not even just one. So pretty egregious. Honestly, Koslow, if he was a cheaper kind of a guy, could have taken the medical DQ essentially and acted, pulled an Aljamain, really sold it.
Yeah, and I go back and forth with that, man. I don't think that that's. It's one of those unwritten rules type things. You know what I mean? It's one of those playground rules type of things. The reason why we don't like when guys do that, but I think that they're honestly, if we're being real, are well within their right to do so. For example, I don't think that Koslow was the same the rest of the fight after that.
I agree.
That illegal knee.
I agree completely.
I think that 100%. He was concussed. He was 100% concussed.
That's essentially what my problem was. Is that how does he continue the fight after having to go through that?
Yeah, and like I said, we hate when people pull Aljamain, and we give this guy a pat on the back, but the reality is he lost his UFC debut, and he probably could have won it. Or at least got a DQ, no contest, something. He wouldn't have a loss on his record, but yet we wouldn't have liked that. And,
Yeah, you wouldn't. It wouldn't build his personal brand well, but it would be the smarter thing to do.
Yeah, you can make that argument, right? And it's just kind of one of those splits between like perception and reality. You know what I mean?
I also wonder this, man. Like, think about how gassed Kozlov was, and he had a 3 or 4 minute break. Now, granted, Simon did too, but clearly Kozlov did not recover quickly or was in poor shape for the pace of the fight.
Yeah, the fight had been a very high pace up until that point, for sure.
Yeah, and the amount of transitions and like grappling transitions, those are weird positions that really will gas you fast because you're having to like think on the fly and react. So that extra mental energy is wearing. But I just noticed toward the end of it, before the stoppage occurs here in the third round, Kozlov just, essentially got tired and just couldn't withstand the flurries and fight back.
Yeah, man, and like I said, it's hard for me to separate that from that illegal knee. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to not factor that in. But you're right, and that's exactly what happened.
Sorry, I accidentally hit the button. I definitely put in my notes that I thought it was a little late on the stoppage. I guess Kozlov's corner even tried to throw in the towel and didn't quite get it. Like, they hit the side of the octagon with it, and it came back at them. Which is just, like, how brutal would that be? You know what I mean? But
yeah, so, great win for Simon. He's now 7-0. I don't think we mentioned this was in the bantamweight division, and with all young bantamweights, we always say it's a long road to the top if you want to rock and roll in that division, because so many bodies, so many studs. Here's another one. The Simon kid has skills. Hell, Coswell has skills. He seems like a good athlete. He has skills. He didn't. I don't really think we saw Simon's chin tested, but that probably means he has good defense. And
yeah, he did have really good active defense on the feet, moving side to side, keeping his hands up, and honestly, he's so quick. He's hard to hit.
Yeah, man. So 21 years old. All the potential in the world. There's so many bodies at bantamweight, and like I said, I don't know what you do with him next, but there's a lot of options, and like I said, it kind of gets, when you get these 21-year-old fighters, these 20-year-old fighters, 18-year-old fighters, it's like, what do you do with them? Because you can't skyrocket them to the top. You can't do the old boxing slow roll. It's kind of a tough spot. Maybe you give them some veterans on the way down, some older guys, or some, I don't know, man. It's or do you just not factor it in at all, like the age and the inexperience? You just gotta matchmake them like you would anyone else. It's an interesting little predicament.
I think you try like you go for a Christian Rodriguez here, right? Fought a few weeks ago against Joshua Weems, not really a guy anyone knows, and not someone that's super, super dangerous, right? But at the same time, is kind of on that same level, because, like you said with bantamweight, man, it's so deep that, you can kind of pick whoever you want. You could do Julio Arce or Montel Jackson, if you want a bigger name. But if you still want to keep him young and just keep feeding him and building him, probably someone more like a Christian Rodriguez.
Okay, fair enough. And we can keep it pushing here to TJ Brown. Versus Eric Silva. Silva making his debut at 35 years old, so that's another weird one. What do you do with a 35-year-old guy making his debut?
He also seemed really ready for the moment. Did you notice that he never was nervous about being in a bad position? I feel like he's been training for a long time. Granted, that ended up being a horrible red flag for him in the third round to not use his hands to defend his neck, but overall I thought he showed this guy definitely has been fighting for a long time and definitely has earned the shot here. TJ Brown's not a slouch either for your first fight.
No, for sure. Like I said, if you're making your debut at 35, they got to give you somebody that they can't give you a can. You know what I mean? And yeah, in the featherweight division, round one of this fight was a fucking banger. It was a lot of fun. Versus Eric Silva. Silva making his debut at 35.
Oh, sorry. My phone started playing our stream. If you could hear yourself right there.
Yeah, I did. I was so confused. I was like, wait, that's exactly what I just said.
Yeah, I sent our YouTube link out to a few people, so it just like started playing on my phone.
Oh yeah, no worries, dude. But yeah, I mean, so round one was a lot of fun. Banger. I mean, Brown got a knockdown, 2 takedowns. I thought he had some pretty good submission defense. What you alluded to, Silva was kind of tackling with some grappling. Silva had like a nice little barrage at the end of the round that like really made it interesting, and because I thought Brown had a lot of success in that round, but Silva kind of got a little bit of that back at the very end of the round.
Yeah, absolutely. Close strong in the last minute.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I definitely had it 10-9 Brown, but entertaining round, fun round. Like, so this was a fight that I'm not going to lie, I wasn't really, like, that stoked to watch.
Me too.
Like,
but at minus 110 odds, I will take a pick 'em any day of the week to watch, considering that it's supposed to be anyone's fight.
True, and like I said, it ended up being, like, pleasantly surprising, definitely entertaining first round. Round two, I thought that, Brown kind of widened the gap a little bit. He took him down, he took his back. He's advancing position. He also seemed to be the fresher man.
He definitely seemed to be smarter in the positions he was working to fight him in too, if that makes sense. Like he was making the fight his kind of a fight.
And it's one of those things where when you're watching it, it's almost like Silva. Understood how to win rounds. It seemed like, you know what I mean. Like he wasn't playing jiu-jitsu; he was playing MMA, if you will. Just winning those 10-9 rounds. I don't know. Do you have anything to add for round two? Pretty straightforward, I thought.
Pretty straightforward, I will say. I think Silva came out really strong at the start of the round, got that takedown off of a nice like striking flurry. I thought Silva looked really good at the start of the round, but once again, kind of the same story of. Well, opposite story, rather, of T.J. Brown dominating the middle and end of the round. I had it T.J. Brown, 10-9. I had it 20-18 going to the third. I honestly thought this was headed for just a straight 30-27 decision.
And then credit to T.J. Brown for really, going for the arm triangle and round, a little bit towards the end of round 3, and he gets it. And I think a lot of people probably thought that Silva had potential to be the better grappler here, so for him to get a sub over the grappler, that's always impressive, beating the guy at his own game. And I mean, good win for TJ Brown. I don't know how much more time I want to spend on it, just because, I mean, it's not going to sound too nice, but TJ Brown, not the most relevant guy in the featherweight division. I mean, good win, good on him. I think he's just like, he's 100% good enough to be in the UFC. He's just not good enough to like get us excited and make any bold claims or, shovel coal in the hype train. And like, it's hard to, he's been around a while. He's had some wins. He's had some losses. He's a good fighter. I mean, good guy to have on your roster, especially to test guys like Eric Silva out with. But I don't know, man. I just, good at a lot of things, not great at really anything. I think it's probably fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think TJ Brown's one of those guys that's like, if you can beat him, you definitely have a place in the UFC. But he also is, I think, going to beat the guys that don't belong there. I think he's right there on the outer edge of the skill set for the featherweight division.
Yeah, and I think that's fair to say. And, maybe he'll prove us wrong one of these days. But let's keep it in the featherweight division. Newly minted featherweight, Alexander Hernandez, coming down from lightweight. I thought that was kind of an interesting little story.
I did too, especially because I always thought he was like a pretty swole lightweight. But then I guess they said that he only walked around at roughly like 167. So he would cut 12 pounds.
Short is what it is. Granted, yeah. I mean, I know it doesn't always matter, but I think he's 5'9". So he kind of looks like he's like a big guy.
Right.
I think like standing next to the other guys in the lightweight division that are usually 5'10", 5'11".
I think he's also got the big thighs, big shoulders, and like sometimes that'll be like visually overwhelming as to how you see a guy's physique. Like we see it all the time with the middleweights that have like the massive like like shoulder, chest, back, and thighs, kind of like Yoel Romero, like those kinds of guys where it's like, how do you weigh that but you look like this? He's kind of that same thing. Like you're built so different.
It's a great physique, right? Very muscular, very lean. I mean, guy looks good without a shirt on. Let's be real. And then fighting Billy Q, man, fucking dog's the exact opposite. Kind of has that
Exact
Matt
opposite.
body, like does it kind of longer. That you don't see really any muscles. Would make for a terrible action figure, but a great.
Probably
fighter.
one of the toughest guys in the whole UFC too. Like you can just rock. Like he's
mentally tough too.
He has that like Paddy Pimblett thing where like you can just rock him, and he'll just keep coming forward.
Where you can just beat him in every round, and the judges will just give it to him.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Because I'm down to get on the hill, but I think I'm near the base of it.
Okay, I'm leading the charge, fucking waving the battle flag. But yeah, we'll keep it relevant on this Billy Q Alexander Hernandez fight. Just one last thing on like Hernandez moving down weight classes. It does kind of reek of like grasping at straws. You know what I mean? Whenever guys start moving down, there's only two people that change weight classes. People that are trying to have some fun, Champ, Volkanovski, Izzy. Like, I need some competition. I really want to challenge myself. I want to dare to be great. Or there's the Alexander Hernandezes of the world where, things aren't necessarily going the way you thought it was or you thought it was going to go. You're on a little bit of a skid.
You felt like you're the smaller man in the octagon, so you thought maybe I'll go down and weight and I'll be the bigger man.
Which is kind of by definition like excuse making, right? Like you're trying to tell all of us that I lost these fights not because they were better than me,
because they outsized me. Yeah, on fight day they were just too much weight differential, and I don't think that's the case here.
Too much man for me. But no, in all seriousness, I do. But also you have to juxtapose that with like the definition of insanity is trying the same thing, expecting different results. So I don't know. It's always tough when these guys go down in weight class that are kind of, floundering a little bit in their career.
Kind of the Dan Hooker thing here, right?
Very reminds me a lot of the Dan Hooker thing. Thank you so much for bringing that up. All that being said, round one was an absolute heater. Fucking, I give it 10-9 Hernandez. He had 2 takedowns. The standing and the ground and pound elbows, he was getting elbows off no matter what the position was. It causing some damage. As we alluded to, Billy Q's a dog, though, has a chin.
Billy Q also got some good damage off there in the round, but overall, man, like that elbow that you saw forehead, I guess left over his left eye, crazy on the slow-mo. When you see the elbow hit, and you can literally see the skin like lacerate with the hit.
When Hernandez looked so fast.
So fast and so strong in the first round, man. Like he definitely, clearly was the bigger guy. Like you saw that actually take effect in round one.
But I was shocked to see he was probably the faster guy too. You know what I mean?
Right, like didn't lose the speed.
Yeah, so I mean, he looked great. I think it's fair to say even like he performed great. We'll get to round two though, because we hit 4 minutes and 30 seconds into round two, and it was really just Billy Q really pushing that pace.
Really just eating damage and not backing down, and just saying like I'll just keep trading with you because I think it's like if you had the health bars in the UFC, like his health bar stays up more for the more hits he takes.
The biggest health bar. He's the nickname Power Bar instead of Old Boy. But
Marc Andre.
Marc Andre Barriot. But Billy Q, he got he had 2 takedowns in the round. So he mixed it up. He really just pulled on the volume and got Hernandez out of there. Hernandez just stopped really like responding well, like. Because the vast majority of this fight, exactly, they were trading, they were both landing, but then it's hard to use a word other than fade, right? I mean, Billy Q kept it up, and Hernandez didn't.
Yeah, man. I mean, just the heart and chin that were on display from Billy Q to withstand that storm, and really, you saw once the fight hit 7 minutes in length, you saw Hernandez start to slow down to the point where like Billy Q just started to mollywop him, and by like the last 90 seconds of the fight, it was him chasing Hernandez around the octagon for a minute, just beating him up, and with 30 seconds left.
Lunch money.
Yeah, I mean, standing finish, but Hernandez literally was like bent over, just like eating shots, not even throwing back. Like, definitely a warranted stoppage.
Yeah, definitely had no problem with the stoppage. Like we said, Hernandez kind of a muscular guy, obviously cutting 10 extra pounds.
Definitely caught up with him. Yeah.
Yeah, man, and so now you're you're faced with the real tough question of like, what do you do now?
Well, he has to do one of two things: go back up and keep the same fight style, or fight a more metered pace and be smarter about the interactions he takes and be more defensive. and try to save his energy because clearly he doesn't have the same gas tank when he cuts the weight.
Exactly. Well, that's another part of the weight cut that people don't always consider. Like, oh, I'm gonna go down to featherweight and be bigger. They're probably also gonna go down to featherweight and have the worst gas tank of the
Be more tired, yeah.
These featherweights, you know, they can go all day. So I mean,
Arnold Allen is clearly proof of that.
You know what I'm saying? You don't see any featherweights built like Michael Chandler, or like, you know what I mean, like all muscled up like that. So it's like, I feel like he just didn't factor that in. Like, yeah, this guy's gonna be smaller, but he's probably gonna have better cardio than me because he is smaller. You know what I mean?
Is at his actively correct weight.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately for Hernandez, he's one of those guys that at 150 would be at his best weight, but it's just not a class.
He's a tweener. Skilled guy. I mean, dangerous guy, good athlete. Like, he's another one of these guys. I feel like a broken record. I've been saying this a lot lately. I swear I'm not getting any checks from PFL. It'd be cooler if I did. But, like, I feel like he could fucking go to PFL or one of these other promotions and have some success and win some money and fight on TV. And I just don't think he's quite at the. I mean, because, but I mean, at the same time, I say that. And the broadcast had to remind me of this, I'll be honest, but he has a knockout win over Beneil Dariush, so it's like,
yeah.
But is that just like?
I believe he also has a win over Cowboy as well in there.
Yeah, I kind of discount that one a little. I think that was a little bit of an older, kind of towards the end Cowboy, but
sure, but still not the very end at least. Pre-McGregor.
No, not. You're right, and also the Dariush win, like. So what do you think that is? Do you think that Hernandez just had the two best nights of his life already, and like he used up, you know, he sort of like he used it all, he used up his juice in those two fights, or
I think with there being film out there, I think the film out there on him hurts him too, because I think guys know how to fight him now.
Oh, okay. I didn't consider that. Fair. That's a good point. I mean, that happens in all sports. Football. I mean, everybody kept saying that was going to happen to Brock Purdy this week because you know, D coordinators get some film on you. Yeah, no, very, very valid point to bring to the conversation. But I did love Billy Q. He didn't necessarily have a call out as much as he called to not be put on the early prelims again, which I think is totally within. I was pretty shocked that this was on the early prelims. I mean, I feel you. You got to have something on the early prelims or people won't watch. But I don't know. I didn't think Billy Q or Alexander Hernandez, for that matter, deserved to be on the early prelims. So
you know what's odd? I thought the featured prelim would have made more sense to be here. And to bump all the other fights up.
They're trying to give old boy the pushy of all push.
I know, but to fight over 9 and 11 heavyweights is like insane to me.
It was. No, that was bizarre. So I don't know. I just like Billy Q's awareness of like card placement and like what that represents, and
yeah, how he's marketed within the organization. Like he's asking for a better usage of his like abilities. Like he wants to be marketed better.
And I think Billy Q. I mean, he puts on exciting fights. You know, he has high-level skills. He's you know, he's a pretty likable guy. I think he definitely deserves higher up on the card. But that wraps up the early prelims. We're gonna keep it pushing on to these prelims. We're gonna stay right here on this same stream. So thanks everybody watching.
I do have a quick question before we push into the prelims.
Yeah, no problem, bro.
Have you heard any of the developments in the Krause case?
I don't know. I saw that little clip going on Instagram where Dana White says federal fucking prison. But yeah, that's really, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I literally just saw like the little meme, like little.
Apparently, there's like 4 or 5 fights that he has like fixed, like knowingly.
Krause?
Yeah.
Oh,
and he shut down that Discord that he was like giving betting tips in that you had to pay him for, and then he also sold his stake in the gym he was in.
Yeah, man, it's all coming tumbling down.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a dude literally like collecting all of his money and about to like get ready for fighting federal criminal case.
Yeah, ooh, that's.
I've heard it's pretty dicey.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, that's maybe we can get like an MMA version of Longest Yard once he's in, in the pokey for point shaving like Paul Crew, but. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's wild shit, and I'm not gonna lie. Like, it is a dark cloud over the sport, especially when some of the stuff that happened.
Right.
It just sucks, dude. Because I don't know.
Well, it's not the UFC doing it, and they're unaware clearly because of their actions they took immediately against Krause.
Yeah, you're right. But it's almost even scarier that way because if that can be done without the UFC knowing it, like, is he the only guy to ever try some shit like this? Like, probably not, right? I mean, like, if you think of, like, drug smuggling, for every one drug smuggler they catch, there's probably 30 that they don't. or any other crime, right? For every murderer they catch, there's probably 2 that they don't. It makes you just want it, because I don't know, it's frustrating because I've been that guy kind of defending the integrity of MMA and, you know, the guy at the bar saying that shit's rigged or blah, 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 you know, and I've been that guy like, no, this is a legit sport and it's, you know, it's not fuckery like that. And it just sucks because I'm like having to like look myself in the mirror and be like, damn, is there bullshit going on? Because like I said, it's hard to believe that Krause is the only guy to ever try it, and you know that. Yeah, he got caught, but like I said, any other crime, for every drunk driver they catch, how many do they not catch? Like, why would this be any different? You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, I agree with you. I just heard a few more like details leaked out about it. No, it just like it sounds like it's pretty much multiple fixed fights and like a lot of times where he knew someone like had like an injury and was like leaking their like the fight plan essentially.
Yeah, and that's another question of it. Not that it really matters. It's both dirty, but like, were they fixed and he was telling his guys to go down?
So I think there's 4 or 5 of those where they purposely lost.
Ooh, that's the worst of the two. Because I said the Derek Minner thing, you can kind of lawyer ball an argument into saying like my guy wanted to fight, like a TJ Dillashaw type of thing. He still wanted to give it a go. Chael Sonnen always talks about he was always hurt and still made the walk anyway. So you can kind of try to spin it that way. The Derek Minner one, not disclosing the injury, I think that's pretty common in MMA. But telling your guys to take a dive, I mean, that's inexcusable. That's inexplainable. That's, I mean, the lowest of the low, dirtiest of the dirt, you know?
Right. I can't wait to see the fighters that are named in the official like lawsuits when it comes out.
Yeah, and then go back and rewatch those fights.
Right.
Like, oh, dude, I mean, on one hand, it fucking sucks. On the other hand, I'm not gonna lie, this is a juicy story.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like for us, you know, MMA, essentially journalism, it's pretty wild. And as far as like sports journalism goes, it's like 30 for 30 level good as far as the story and like the inside of it. A guy that runs one of the major UFC gyms, and then you saw like the fighters that had recently left and said they didn't love MMA there. Does it make you wonder if they were being told certain things or like being forced to like fight like dirty fights essentially?
Yeah, I mean, to use that kind of strong language, you would think so. But man, this prelim card was straight up. This was like a fight night.
Yeah, main card essentially. And the way the main card turned out, that also could have been a fight night main card, unfortunately. So we got 2 fight night main cards coming up for you.
Yeah, man. But I mean, Chris Curtis, Joaquin Buckley, what a fight!
What a great fight too.
Like, Jesus Christ! I mean, Buckley was just on Rogan a few weeks ago, and Chris Curtis, I mean, he's ranked 15. His stock, you know, seems to be rising pretty quickly.
And this is Buckley's last fight at middleweight. Like, he's going to go to welterweight regardless after this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't privy to that. That's pretty interesting. Also, I think a dangerous kind of thing to be thinking going into a middleweight fight, like focus on the task at hand.
Well, he
right?
said, and he said that he wanted to just go straight to middle or to welterweight, but that his agent was like, we can get you a ranked fight at middleweight against Chris Curtis, and he liked the fight so much, like thinking he could win it, that he was like, well, I'll beat the ranked guy, get a ranking, and then go down and immediately get to deserve a ranked welterweight.
Yeah, and I think that's probably fair. I mean, hell, I kind of like Buckley going into this one. Vegas liked him. We got Chris Curtis, who I didn't realize was 35 years old. 15 middleweight, plus 140. Trains over there with Sean Strickland and the boys at Extreme Couture. Fighting Joaquin Buckley, a minus 165 powerhouse at middleweight. And Buckley is so hard for me. Like, first off, never bet a Buckley fight. Just don't do it. Either way.
Right.
Don't bet on him. Don't bet against him. Because, I mean, I think I've literally lost both. There's been, like, he's so hard to get a read on. Like, right when you start, like, believing in him, he'll do something kind of stupid or lay an egg. And then as soon as you start doubting him, he'll shut your fucking mouth up there, too. Like, he's a really good fighter. He's not the most technical guy. I mean, freak athlete. Dog, right? Chin. I mean, very talented. It's just I don't know. He is so wild that like anything can happen in his fights, and he is going to engage in these firefights. And I think there is a little bit of element of like overconfidence to him. Like, however, like, do you really want to take that away from a fighter? You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of want that in him.
Right.
It's Buckley's so hard for me to get a read on. Like, even before this, like, if this was, I didn't bet this fight. I didn't really have a prediction on this fight. Buckley is so hard for me to put a finger on. Like,
Yeah, and honestly, when you go to Chris Curtis's last time out fighting Hermanson in one of the most boring fights ever, where he just continually like tried to get Hermanson to fight him, and Hermanson wouldn't, and Chris Curtis also wouldn't. Like, you can't just sit there and invite a guy to strike with you, but then not aggressively strike at him at the same time, right? Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And he clearly in this fight had a good matchup with a guy that will strike and come forward and throws aggressive combinations. Because Chris Curtis, as he showed in this fight, just goes high guard, tries to deflect your 3-4 piece combo, and then come back with a 1 or a 2. Which, I mean, diving into the X's and O's of it in the first round, he probably landed 3 left hands that were the biggest shots of the round. But he also only landed maybe 15 punches to Buckley's like 45.
That's exactly what my notes say. I gave it to Buckley 10-9.
Me too.
The activity, the pressure. But like I said, you have to use activity and not damage because Curtis's defense was so good. A lot of those shots were glancing off the gloves, so he was getting out of the way of them. But it's the volume, the activity, the pressure. Also, though, good fight IQ by Buckley because when he realized he is having a hard time hitting the head, he started going to the body and finding a lot of success. Those big ripping hooks to the body were gorgeous. I love some good body work, which is Chris Curtis usually has good body work himself. So I don't know. I actually love this matchup. Very evenly matched. I gave round 1 to Buckley, but you're right. Chris Curtis probably had the biggest moments in the round. You can't score the defense though, so it ends up coming out for Buckley in round 1. But I mean, entertaining round.
No doubt, man. And like, honestly, round 2, more of the same stuff with Buckley having this high volume approach, Curtis with the high shell, kind of just trying to, counter back until Buckley throws a kick, gets his kick caught, and gets served a left from hell that drops him to the mat and effectively ended the fight. I mean, probably got put out 2 or 3 times, but just kept coming back too.
The circle of life, right? Buckley got his name by catching a kick and knocking the guy out.
Gets knocked out by getting his kick caught. Yeah.
Wild. Yeah, that was a weird knockout. Like, when I was watching it live, especially because he was standing on one leg, you almost thought he just knocked him over or, but you didn't really notice it was a knockout until you saw the replay. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
It was a weird knockout. I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way or anything. Like, it was a cool knockout. It was an awesome knockout. But watching it live, I didn't even realize really that Buckley had been knocked out. And I didn't think that would be the shot to do it. I mean, it was a nice straight left, but it wasn't anything that crazy.
I think it just caught him by surprise. Like, you know what they always, they say it's the shots you don't see that hurt you the hardest.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, man. But yeah, puts him down. The left straight, caught the kick, left straight, finished him off a little ground and pound. 2 minutes and 49 seconds is the official stoppage time. I had Chris Curtis losing round 2. I mean,
me too.
Looked great. It's one of those things where, like, you'll hear fighters talk about, like, separate the performance from the result. Like, I thought Buckley performed well. I mean, I really have zero problems with anything that Buckley did.
Oddly enough, I'm not very much stock down on Buckley, and I'm not really much stock up on Curtis, though, either, because hard to sell that style to me.
Yeah, true that. Especially like, oh, you're a counter striker, but you're short.
Like
yeah, gonna work at the highest level.
Like boring till he's not.
Yeah, true that. And yeah, like I said, I really did like Buckley's performance, and that's not me making excuses for him. Actually, a lot of the things Buckley does, quite frankly, kind of annoys me. Like, I'm talking outside of the octagon, like
me too.
The Detroit urban gimmick and you see what he was doing? He was signing the posters with an X, and he's like, I'm not signing these posters till I get a main event. It's like, bro, you're on the prelims, and then you get knocked out in the prelims. Like, it's hard with fighters because it's almost like a corner in the NFL. Like, you have to believe like you're the fucking shit. But like when you're not, it's tough.
It's a tough sell.
Kind of cringe. Yeah, it's like think about, like, you have a fight poster that the fighter signed right behind you. And imagine if there was a big X. Like, you're a fan. Like, that's not how you treat your fans.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what I'm
not good.
saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's not cool. It made for a kind of a catchy little, Instagram reel or whatever. But I don't know. I didn't really like that branding and that marketing approach personally. And like I said, yeah, he's in bangers. But is he one of these guys like Kevin Holland that like he'd rather be in a banger than get a win? Like, is that what's happening here? Is it an ego thing? Is it a overconfidence thing? Is that now him at 170 is super interesting. Once again, I mean, and I know he's fought Kevin Holland and lost to him, but it almost feels like these two guys' careers are going to be forever intertwined. They're very similar guys. Both like to talk. Both good athletes.
Similar
both
fight styles.
Wrong weight class. Now they're going down to 70, and it's just tough at 72, man. I mean, a fight that would be fun, and I'm not. I mean, he has to probably get a win or maybe even 2 wins before something like this happens. But like, I feel like Joaquin Buckley, Jeff Neal would be a heater.
Me too. What a heater. 2 guys that will just go for it and throw in the pocket.
But there's also fights at 170 that are a nightmare for Buckley. I mean, in all fairness, they're the same fights that are a nightmare for literally everybody on the roster.
Well, like Sean Brady's pure nightmare. Shavkat Rakhmonov, pure nightmare.
Rakhmonov took the words out of my mouth. Exactly. And I mean, hell, even I think like a Wonder Boy Thompson, bad matchup for him after what we just saw with Kevin Holland because he's shorter than Kevin Holland. I think Wonder Boy can pretty much do everything that he did to Kevin Holland and just do it to Buckley.
A guy like Luque is a fun matchup.
Luque's a fun matchup. This would never happen, but I think like Masvidal would be a fun fight. Like Buckley, Masvidal would be sick. Like the shit talking, like everything. I mean, that would be a lot of fun.
Even D-Rod and Buckley would be fun.
D-Rod and Buckley.
And that's a reasonable matchup. 15 in welterweight. You just let him fight 15 at middleweight, and honestly had a great performance. Now, granted,
great.
I could see you making him have to get another win before he gets the ranked fight. Sure, fine. You don't just get a ranked fighter off of a loss into a new weight class. That makes sense.
It does make sense. Did Chris Curtis go up in the rankings at all for that? I mean, I don't see why he would, but I just...
He did not. He did not.
Still at 15? Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you could even debate if he even deserves that 15 spot. Like, I think that there's guys probably that aren't ranked that are a little better than Chris Curtis, but we'll see. And I guess we keep it pushing, man. We got Edmund Shabazian fighting Dolce Longiambula. This was an interesting one. Obviously, Shabazian on a skid, but he changed camps and took some time off. That was the whole storyline coming into this one. Fight at middleweight, obviously, and then Dolce Longiambula. Interesting matchup because everybody kept saying it was like a step down in competition, which it was, but he's also a super dangerous guy, and Shabazian can have kind of a suspect chin a little bit. So it's like, I don't know. This was kind of my hot take pick. Like I didn't bet it, but like I kind of like Longiambula plus 270. Like
really,
I've seen Longiambula be a dangerous fighter. Yeah, and I mean, I'm not the biggest Shabazian guy. I'm not saying I'm a big Longiambula guy, but there was definitely scenarios where he won that, or like could have won that. But I mean,
I think the UFC has been slowly in the business of trying to give him like get right fights ever since they really fucked him over with like Derek Brunson and some wrestlers, because they pretty much gave him too much too fast, and I think they really like Shabazian. Moved to Vegas now, I guess, to train. Although for horrible reasons, so there weren't enough sparring partners in California. What?
I think he was talking about his specific gym, and we've talked shit on that gym before.
That's fair, but it's like there's so many gyms in California that could offer you the same amount of partners as Vegas would.
Hey, Nevada over California, what can I say?
Yeah, I'm not going to hate on you on that. Yeah, I would fully agree with that. And the state of California does suck as well. So probably a better life move for him, right? But that being said, this is one of those that felt like he's a bigger guy with a way bigger leg reach, and he's a guy that likes to throw kicks. So I thought it was. I
realized that Dolce was 5'8",
but his arms are like 6'3".
Yeah, it's wild. He has a wild build.
Right. So it's almost like he's great in a pure striking matchup. Like in boxing, he'd be dangerous because his arms are so crazy. But in kickboxing kind of hurts him because his legs are so short.
No, for sure. And yeah, Shabazian, I mean, he pretty much used the advantage that you're speaking of. You can tell that was kind of baked into his game plan. I mean, the body kicks, the front kicks to the body, were a huge part of the game plan. It was kind of keeping him away from him, keeping him off of him. I thought they were super effective. He was also ripping punches to the body with, a big muscled up guy like Dolce. Probably going to try to gas him out with some body shots. I thought that was a good strategy. And then he had the good takedown defense, which has been a big, weak spot in Shabazian's game, is getting taken down and held down. So, I mean, Dolce's not, the world's best wrestler, but he was able to, stave off those takedown attempts. Round one was pretty much all Shabazian. I mean, Lungia Bull, he was just fighting like you'd expect him to fight, throwing those big wild shots. A couple of them would land, but nothing too crazy. And Shabazian actually ate him better than I thought he would.
Oh, yeah, I did forget to mention as well that every person on the card that got a finish got a bonus.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to put that out there.
No, I'm glad you did. So Curtis got a finish.
Everyone that we've seen so far.
Billy Q, Brown,
Simon.
And some. Wow, they all got bonuses.
Everyone that got a finish. If you got a finish, you got a bonus.
Dana's like, please keep these judges out of it.
Right, like you see they're fucking shit up. Like anyone that got a finish, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, seriously. No, that is dope though. But man, round two, Shabazian was really starting to find the knees, the accuracy of the knees that
Yes, the knees. Honestly, any strikes he threw with his legs were the most effective strikes he could throw.
Which was, as in your kind of intro to this, is like the perfect game plan to use against Dolce. So fought well,
But like I said, like kind of like an obvious thing to do, right? Like it only makes sense. Like if you're a striker and you know that you have that leg reach advantage, that's obviously what your game plan should be. And if you're Dolce, I thought Dolce not ever trying to wrestle Shabazian was a bad idea. Because Shabazian, he tried the one time.
In round one, and I mean, it didn't go anywhere. It wasn't even close. So, and I mean, he is a guy with a suspect gas tank. So it's like...
That's a good point. The gas tank in combination with the trying to wrestle and not succeeding would definitely be a bad idea.
For sure. I mean, it was a tough matchup for Lungi Buller, right? I mean, he was plus 270 for a reason. Round two, Shabazian finishes them off. 4 minutes and 41 seconds. That seemed to be a theme with a lot of these finishes. I mean, towards like the end of the round.
They'd be late round finishes, man. And the first two were like late third round finishes.
Yeah. And so Shabazian, I mean, the knee that started at the beginning of the end was perfectly timed.
Straight up the center.
It could not have landed cleaner. Yeah, it was exciting. I mean, it did remind you kind of the reason why people were excited about Shabazian all those years ago.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And like they love to allude to it in the broadcast booth, like this dude's like the baby face of the UFC, and I don't know why. Like I don't like Shabazian. I'll just be honest about it. So maybe I have like a biased take the opposite way, but like he did come out and kind of set the UFC on fire when he started, and then he got built too high too fast and got just absolutely like all the legs cut out from under him, and now he's kind of having to like rebuild as like a veteran fighter now.
Yeah, and like so that's where I still don't know what to do with this win, because
that's what I'm saying.
It's like we've seen him against the top, right? Didn't go so hot. All right, he can beat the Lungi and Bullas of the world, but like, okay, what does that do for me? You know what I mean? Are we going to keep feeding him Lungi and Bullas?
You know what they're going to do, obviously, here is Chris Curtis and Shabazian.
That would actually be kind of a cool fight. Or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that could be a snoozer for sure. That could be Hermanson all over again.
I think the way Shabazian throws kicks would be a lot more interesting as a matchup, though, for Curtis. Because defending those kicks with a high guard, that ain't going to work.
Good point. Also, Shabazian's taller than him, so it'll be a kind of a similar physical matchup as the Lungi and Bulla.
And they just found the same card. Both didn't take the most damage. Both got stoppage victories. I mean, I just think it lines out too well.
Do you make Chris Curtis fight back twice, though? I mean, I'm not saying anybody owes Chris Curtis any favors, but he is 35. He did just get a knockout over a rising star.
But I almost think the name value of Shabazian is, like, worth it.
I think that's a fair point. And I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that matchup at all. It's not my favorite, but I also don't hate it. Like,
well, because Shabazian's 6-3 in the UFC. I mean, that's a pretty solid record, UFC.
It was. The 3 losses were in a row, which I feel like it's like compound interest. Like they
Kind
get
of to
like,
killers though.
oh, definitely the killers. You know what? I think that does make a lot of sense because what's in between like a Lungi and Bulla and a Brunson?
It's
A Chris
someone like a
Curtis.
Chris Curtis, yeah.
It is. No, that's a very good like juxtaposition of like within the division for sure. And then we'll keep it pushing, man. This next one honestly went exactly how I saw it going, man. We got Chris Dawkins.
Yeah, this not
Marcus
exactly how you'd see this fight?
Yeah, dude, because I don't know, I'm pretty out on Dawkins. Like, if you're a heavyweight striker with a suspect chin and not insane power, it's like I don't know.
What you're gonna do?
Yeah, like are you gonna just volume strike heavyweights? And it worked earlier against some of the weaker competition, but Jairzinho Rosenstrike is a different beast. But yeah, Doc is still ranked 11. Jairzinho ranked 9 coming into this one. Both of these guys former main eventers. So like, that's what I said. Like when these prelims, I said it's like a fight night main card. Like got two.
These two were pretty much a fight night main card.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And you had striker versus striker in the heavyweight division. Pretty interesting size discrepancy. Dawkins weighed in at 242, Rosenstrike 261.
Let me ask you this, man.
Okay, yeah.
So 242, right? We're talking 36 pounds over the 205. Now let's just assume Dawkins isn't cutting weight, because I don't assume he is. Why would he?
Why would he?
Right. He's probably trying to be like thick and like full, right? Like, so if he dieted 10 pounds lower than what he walks around at, let's just say he walks around 245, and by the time he's done with camp, he loses 2.5 pounds, right? So let's just say he gets down at, 230 going into camp, or 233 roughly. He gets down to 230. I mean, your 25-pound cut, that's pretty big, but it's doable.
I mean, yeah, it's like I'm pretty sure Blachowicz walks around somewhere around there.
Right, like there's plenty of 205ers that make that cut from 235 down.
He could do the Alex Pereira middleweight cut, you know what I'm saying? I think.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like Pereira literally walks around at like 230. Like he's literally 12 pounds less than Dawkins. And they fight two divisions apart.
Body compositions. But I do understand your overarching point. And something's got to give here because, we're beating around the bush. This fight lasts 23 seconds. Rosenstrike dog walked him. Beat the shit out of him from the opening. Like, literally, the opening bell, he wobbled him with a jab, got off the flying knee, then transitioned to, like, a Superman punch. Like, all
bro, the jumping left jab, oh, my God.
Like, all like a sprint. I'm so glad this fight wasn't in the Apex either because they probably would have ran into the cage.
Yeah, way sooner, yeah.
He was just literally, like, chasing him down, like, in a straight line, just hitting him with shit.
It was Blade beatdown style.
It was. It really, really was the like beatdown style. And I'm happy for Rosenstrike because Rosenstrike's another one of these guys, top flight kickboxer, dangerous heavyweight, just ran into trouble in like the top 5. You know what I mean? Like, and
the top 5 is the most elite guys, and he's had to lose to most of those guys now.
That's what I'm saying. So this was a dope matchup for him. I think even the card placement maybe take a little pressure off him. 3 rounds instead of 5. He's been in main events his past couple of fights. Gave him a striker who's smaller than him. I think this is a get-right fight for Rosenstrike.
Felt like it.
But, at minus 175, it's not like he was some huge favorite. This was one I didn't make any bets on this card, but this would have been one I felt very good about betting Rosenstrike on, and that's not hindsight.
That's lack of path to victory for Dawkins here.
Yes, yeah, he's going to stand and strike with a world-class kickboxer that outweighs him by 30 pounds.
No.
Yeah, and then Dawkins' chin, man. That's what 3 knockouts in a row for Dawkins. Am I wrong on that?
Let me look that up. That sounds.
I'll look at the heavyweight rankings while you look at Dawkins'.
Because they're not updated yet, but I think by the end of the show they will be, all the rankings.
Yeah, they still have him at 11 here.
Yeah, that's 3 KOs in a row for Dawkins. Now, granted, they are to Derek Lewis, Curtis Blades, Jairzinho Rosenstrike.
Oh yeah, no, that's tough. That's the who's who. Pretty much, right?
But his total fight time in all the 3 fights combined is under 10 minutes. If that shows you, like.
He's getting, like, starts. Like, these fights aren't competitive. You know what I mean?
And like his
And,
wins
like,
over Alexei Oleinik and Shabdul Abdurakhimov are now over a year ago.
yeah, and I mean, like, I don't know, that doesn't do too much for me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and I mean, behind him in the rankings, you got Spivak, you got Romanov, you got Ivanov, and Abdurakhimov, which he did have the win over Abdurakhimov. So.
I mean, I could see Dawkins Romanov, but I mean, Jesus, like, how rude are they going to be?
Just hammer the Romanov.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's tough, man. That's why, like, the drop to 205 might be the move. I mean,
it just makes the most sense.
I don't know though, because I mean, you know how like I'm looking at the back end of like him and Jimmy Crute might be a fun fight, but like I feel like Khalil Roundtree whoops the shit out of him too, and that's who's ranked 15 at light heavy.
Yeah, and
like,
Reyes is a weird matchup for him too.
Like he's going to be so much slower than those guys. He's kind of a tweener.
He just doesn't have a good skill set for his weight class.
I think so. Yeah. Or he might just fucking hit the weight room, get on that fucking Connor diet.
Yeah. And develop more power.
Yeah, seriously.
Because he needs to have more power.
But also, like, you can't bench press for your chin. Like, his chin is, like, you could argue it's been cracked. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. And if you look at his wins, I mean, wins are he has all KO wins or all KO losses.
Which, to a certain extent, the UFC probably likes, right? Like, the exciting nature of it and the... But yeah, I don't know, dude. It's real hard to like find nice things to say about Dawkins, right? Like, I remember when Dawkins first burst on the scene and we first found out about him. We're like,
against Parker Porter, and he looked so different. Like he looked fast, was cutting angles.
Well, and Parker Porter's also since dropped to light heavyweight too, so it was like the one guy in the division he was bigger than.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And then Rodrigo Nascimento, another one where it's like, well. He literally just outclassed him because he was just technically better.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at with Doc. It's like, yeah, if you give him some fat slob in there, like, yeah, he'll piece him up and look good. But a world-class athlete, the gap is pretty wide, and that's, like, evident.
Yeah, and it's like anytime he's had to fight a guy that's like a top 7, top 8, like, talent, it's just not good for him. It doesn't work.
Yeah, and heavyweight's not the deepest division, so it's not like bantamweight where there's like a million lower ranked guys or unranked guys you can match them up with. Like, I feel like heavyweight, it's pretty much got to be ranked guys. There's just like not a ton of bodies. Or do you feed him to like a Johnson Almeida?
That's where I'm at with it. Is like give him someone that's the same size and let's see if he even still like him and Tanner Bozer. Fuck it, that's a fun fight.
You're right. Yeah, a Bozer. You're right. I think that's the only fight I could think of that would be fun at this point. Because I think Johnson Almeida. Ooh, I don't
know if he wants that smoke.
Yeah, for sure, man. Fun to talk about, and I think we're just enjoying talking about the heavyweight division, kind of as a whole. But we got a little phenom to talk about here, and I do mean little. We got an 18-year-old bantamweight, goes by the name of Raul Rosas Jr. We might have a star in our hands. This guy,
he's got Hamzat face.
He does have Hamzat face. He also dude, he got a loud pop,
Dude, the biggest pop of the whole prelims. It was crazy. Like before he went to the octagon, put his arms up, and then people were just losing their shit. I was like, what?
And it was organic too, because sometimes the UFC tries to force these Dana White Contender Series, give them unnecessary push, try to make us care about these guys that we don't care about, quite frankly. But this seemed all very organic. The people that paid money to be in that building that night were excited to see him walk out. And that can't be bought. That can't be, manipulated. That's organic, right? People were intrigued. I mean, the age definitely plays a factor. But also, he's a pretty interesting kid. He's good on a mic, He's
Well, Jay Perrin also has the saltiest fight record.
Yeah, the saltiest of salty. So they definitely gave him a good landing spot. Raul Rosas Jr. 6-0, making his debut as a -240 favorite over Jay Perrin, +200 dog, bantamweight division. And you see how calm Rosas was, in all the stare downs and all
right.
That, all week he was just yeah, I'm gonna this guy.
This is gonna be light work.
Yeah, and it's like you go back and forth, right? Because you're like, oh well, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, kid. But it's also it is Jay Perrin.
Right.
But I don't know, we've seen this before.
I mean, he
right?
looked like he should look if we're saying it's like that against Jay Perrin. Like, he dominated from pillar to post.
Yeah, I mean, this fight only lasts 2 minutes and 44 seconds.
And it's him riding his back for literally 2 minutes and 15 seconds of that.
He got the first takedown he attempted, like no resistance at all. But we didn't even really get to see the striking, like at all. Like he
Right.
just took him down and did whatever he wanted to him, which impressive. I mean, we didn't get to see much striking from Hamza his first couple of fights. You know what I'm saying?
And taking no damage is always a big deal. Like, he literally took no damage.
At all, especially at his age. I'm sure he's going to be wanting to get back in there soon. Keep the hype rolling. I mean, he ends up getting the win by rear naked choke. Yeah, bro, Perrin had nothing. I thought Perrin would at least like be able to force a scramble, maybe stuff a takedown, maybe reverse.
Rosas was so clean on the back though with his hips, like getting into the body triangle / also getting whenever he first got the back, he had the legs locked around just the one hip and was literally like pulling himself back with his back leg so he could get the other hip in. It was like really technically impressive grappling.
Also flattened him out so easy. Like,
Yeah, as soon as he got the other hook in, popped, flattened him out, and shifted to the body triangle all in one motion.
All at once. Yeah, no, it was sick. Also pretty big bantamweight, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in 10 years, he might be fighting at feather.
He's definitely going to be a featherweight, man. I mean, at 18, like, his body's going to grow too much.
Yeah, like, who weighs the same as they did when they were 18? Like, not many people. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to naturally get bigger. I mean, like I said, but, I mean, for the time being, he's a pretty big bantamweight. I mean, and not just big as in tall, but, like, pretty strong, like, right? Like,
Looks pretty cut.
Yeah, like, I didn't expect all the, like, functional strength from the 18-year-old either. You know what I'm saying?
Right, like, probably the more muscular of the two fighters.
Oh, for sure. And, like, I don't know, bro. Like, I'm kind of sold. Like,
I am too. Like, I think he's
and I
real
do
deal.
think-
He's good on the mic. Him on the mic afterward asking for the bonus so he can get his mom a minivan to drive him to practice as the PI was the funniest thing I heard all year.
No, that was great. That was great. Also, the sombrero gimmick.
Yeah.
Like, he's already understanding that, like, he needs an angle, he needs a brand, he needs a character, like, he needs, like watch. I guarantee you at his next fight, there's going to be sombreros in the crowd,
Right.
just like there's the patty wigs and the, like, he has his angle, he has his gimmick, which for an 18-year-old kid to, like, be aware enough to, like, factor that in, but not too much to where it's distracting or it's corny. Like, I don't know. I like that it's a simple gimmick. Wear the fucking sombrero and talk about how young you are.
It feels organic. It all feels organic. Like, it feels real. But at the same time, it's like he's 18. Like, he probably is a goofy kid.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And like, I don't know. I like I said, I'm sold, and it's not like it's not. It doesn't feel forced. Like, I don't feel like this is one of these prospects that the UFC is like forcing down my throat.
Nah, it's also a story you want to like at heart. You know what I'm saying?
And like the skills. Granted, you could argue, what did we learn from that? He went through him like a hot knife through butter. But the fact that he can go through anybody on the roster like a hot knife through butter kind of tells you all you need to know.
Right. And at that level of like precision and just like extreme amount of control, man. Like, he pretty much did everything he wanted. And even when Perrin did the right things, like, Rosas was in enough control or knew how to shift the position to still be in control.
Yeah, like the combination of out techniquing and out athleting of Perrin, like, simultaneously.
Right.
Like, it doesn't really matter who the opponent is at that point. Like, the things that he's showing, it's like, yeah, is there some boxes we haven't seen checked? Sure, of course. But I don't know, bro. Like, personally, what I'd like to see next for him is him versus Simon, the guy that opened the card up, opened the prelims up. He's 21, he's 18. They're both young.
They're the second and
7-0.
first youngest fighters on the roster.
Yeah, I think they just fought on the same card. I think you do that, and it kind of answers the question for both of them, right? They both need somebody to fight. You don't want to rush either one of them too much.
And Simon showed some pretty good grappling strength, so like with good striking.
Yeah.
So you'd love to see Rosas with a striking challenge in front of him with someone that we know that can grapple.
probably a better athlete than Perrin, most likely.
For
You know what
sure.
I'm saying? I think it's a step up, but it's like a reasonable step
Probably a
up.
step
I don't
up for
think it's
both guys. Like I think Rosa's probably better than Kozlov.
Oh, well, for sure. So it's like I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, and they're both so young that it's not like whoever loses, like it ruins their career or derails them. Like they both, whoever loses that can still go on to have a dope career. Like I don't think it like sabotages anybody's career. That's what they always talk about. Like, oh, you don't want the young undefeated guys derailing each other.
Well, if you do it early enough, not a problem, right?
That's
Like
what I'm
like
saying.
Connor Holloway, Poirier, Connor, like those guys. You do it early enough, it's not really a problem.
I 100% agree with that. I think that would be a lot of fun, man. But I'm here for Raul Rosas Jr., man. I don't know. We like the Mexican fan base, you know. Like imagine him on the same card as Moreno. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like in somewhere like a San Diego or even like a Houston, Texas. I mean, really anywhere within a couple hundred miles of the Mexican border. I mean, Arizona.
Yeah, do like a Moreno, Gastelum, and him like all on the same card, kind of a thing.
Yeah, like they do with the Australians, like they do. I mean, they do it with the English fighters. I'm ready for this Mexican card. That'd be fine.
And there's some super sick women fighters from Mexico, like super sick that you could like a Grasso, like you can litter that card with great Mexican fighters.
Who's that girl we just saw? Haragi?
Yeah,
Haragi?
Yasmin
She's a
Haragi.
dog. Yeah, get her on the prelims. You know, no, there's a lot of Mexican talent. Yeah, I don't know, bro. I mean, I feel like we're kind of beating a dead horse, but sign me up and shovel all the coal, man. I'm here for Raul Rosas. Like,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't
Honestly,
know.
like left a great taste in my mouth for the end of the prelims too. You know what I mean? Like was actually like for card placement. I know I complained about it earlier, but like way it turned out, the kid put on a show and like made me feel good about the future of his career and left me on a high note going into the main card.
Felt big. It kind of reminded me of like when Patty made his prelims debut. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
It
kind of what I'm
felt-
thinking too. Is like a kid this young, it's that good. Like, what if this is like the start of his run, and like he just does keep getting better, and like we got to see his first fight.
Like, just think about it, bro. In 5 years, he'll be 23. He'll be like Aaron Blanchfield's age in 5 years.
Yeah, and probably be ranked or like have been through the top of the rankings.
Yeah, like that's what's interesting to me. And like I said, I think he matches up well. Like, okay, the taller guys in the division, he's pretty tall too.
The more athletic guys?
Striking, he's pretty athletic. Okay, cool. Yeah, there's some pretty tough wrestlers. The Umars, the Marabs. I mean, I think he can hold his own on the ground. I mean, jiu-jitsu versus wrestling would be a stylistic matchup, but it wouldn't be necessarily like an outclassing or like this guy can't like hang on the ground. Like that's where he wants to be is on the ground.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know, dude. Like, I mean, I'm not saying Russian. Like I said, I want to see him against Simon next, but we're gonna run out of time and run out of unranked bodies eventually. Like and I think physically he's gonna match up with the top guys.
I think you're right, man. I think that's where I see Rosas is like he has all the intangible skill set plus the age, plus it seems like he's not like the moments aren't too big for him.
And like you got to think too, probably at 18, the weight cut's probably pretty smooth. He probably doesn't have a ton of injuries.
He
Like,
probably isn't even cutting that much weight. Like I bet his metabolism runs so high at that age with the workouts he's doing that like
training all day.
right.
Yeah.
Like he's probably easily making that weight right now. Like we'll see whenever he hits 25 and like you know he's fully grown, but like has his metabolism as like a full adult as well. We'll see, but that's still 7 years away.
How tall is he, real quick? I'm gonna look up, and then we can wrap this up and keep it pushing to the main card. But I'm just curious how tall he is because he looks tall as shit. But I think Jay Perrin's short.
He's 5'9".
5'9". So he's not super tall for the division. Like O'Malley's like what 5'11", but 5'9". I mean that's plenty tall for bantamweight. That's plenty tall.
Yeah, his nickname's the Problem Child.
Yeah, El Nino Problema, or what isn't it like in Spanish?
Yeah, El Nino Problema. It's crazy though that man. I mean, born 2004, October 8th, 2004.
I was in 4th grade.
Right, like bro, I was No, you're
That's
we were in
wild.
5th grade. We had started our 5th
Yeah.
grade year by then.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Well, hell yeah, dude. Well, shit. That was a really fun prelim. Like I said, I had all the feelings of like a fight night main card, but we have an actual main card that we paid $75 to watch. So we'll get to that. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Thanks to everybody watching on YouTube. Check out some of our other videos, and just check us out on Twitter at Beefy Breakdown. We appreciate it.